Yeah, welcome back, and it is the 24th of April, high plus 5 a day, and let's just go straight to the first one. Okay, so it looks like we're starting with a quadratic inequality. So there's very definitely a technique here. So I want to work out all the values of x that give me less than 0. So what would be helpful is if I could work out the values of x that give me 0, and therefore I know, because I know the shape of the quadratic, it's the values in between those values. And the way that I do that, well, I could either do the quadratic formula, or I could complete the square, or as I'm going to do here, is I could guess that I can factorize this. And I think I can factorize, and I'll show you why I say that in a second. 48 is 4 times 12. It's also 6 times 8. And I know 6 and 8 give me 14. The other thing I know is that's a minus and that's a plus. So therefore it must be the case that both of these are negative, which means therefore both of these numbers must multiply to make 48 and also add to give me 14. So again, it must be 6 and 8. Now, that's important because that's giving me the number 6 as the first critical value and the number 8 as the second critical value, which means just by observing my diagram, all the numbers that are below 0 are between 6 and 8. So my answer is going to be 6 is less than x, which is less than 8. Now, because this is a strict inequality, there's no equal sign. This is also going, or these are also going to be strict inequalities. Either way, question done. Next question. Okay, a lot going on in this question, and I need to find h. Now, what I would notice, because it's not explicitly said, is this here is going to be a right angle triangle. If this is a real exam question, it would say that explicitly. So if I had this length here, well, then I could use right angles triangles to work out h. Or similarly, if I had the length of the whole thing down the bottom, I could also use right angle triangles. So somewhere I'm going to have to use the triangle on the left, the one with the 20 in it, in order to work out one of the values, which allows me to work out some of the other values. Let's just try and, you can tell I'm thinking aloud here. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with this side here, because I know that must be 146. And if I know that's 146, I know this is going to be 180 minus 146, which is back to 34, minus 20, which is going to give me 14. And the reason I've done that is I can use this side here in order to work out this side here. I know the opposite angles, which means I can use the sine rule. So let's set this up using the sine rule. Now again, I'm going to call this x, which means I have something to talk about. So therefore x, which I'm trying to find, divided by the angle opposite x, which is 20, so x over sine 20, is equal to the side that I do know, which is 24, divided by its opposite angle, which I've now worked out as 14, which means that x is going to be 24 sine 20 divided by sine 14. Now I'm going to work that out in my calculator, and that gives me 33.9303039. I'm going to use a few decimal places because I'm going to need that number to work out h, and I need h to be accurate. So 33.93030. Now I still remember being in school and my teacher telling me that at least 2 decimal places more, or 2 significant figures more than your answer is going to be. So I think having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sig figures more than enough. Then I'm going to consider this triangle here, the smaller triangle. Now I know from opposite and hypotenuse that sine exists, so therefore sine of 34 is equal to the opposite, which is the h that I need, divided by the x I've just worked out, which is 33.93030, which means that h is going to be 33.93030 times by sine of 34, which is approximately equal to 18.9735, etc. And I'm just going to call that 18, I'm going to call that 19.0 to 1 decimal place. And what's the units? The units is meter, or the units are meters, so that's going to be in meters. Nice question, that nice sort of problem question. Watch your layout, make sure it's nice and clear what you've done. If you make a silly way the answer, then your examiner is going to have to go all the way through and work out what you've done. So you need to make some clear steps that I can see where that working is coming from. Either way, let's move on. Question done. Okay, Dylan says f of g of 5 is equal to g of f of 5. Is Dylan correct? Now, clearly, just writing the word yes or no is not going to get the answer. So you need to show working. So I'm going to work out f of 5. So f of 5 is going to be equal to 10 over 5 plus 1. 10 over 5 is 2 plus 1 is going to give me 3. And then I'm going to work out g of 3, which is going to be 2 times 3 minus 5. So I'm going to write that down. So 2 times 3 minus 5. 2 times 3 is 6, minus 5 is going to give me 1. And then I'm going to work out g of 5. You can probably guess what I'm going to do next. So g of 5 is 2 times 5 minus 5, which is going to give me, well, 2 5s are 10, minus 5 is back to 5 again. And we already know that f of 5 is not minus 1, f of 5 is 3. So clear statement. So answer the question. So as f of g of 5 does not equal g of f of 5, Dylan is incorrect. I've answered the question, I've shown my reasoning, that should get me 4 marks. Next question. Oh wow, okay. In fact, I should do both. I've just read both questions, so I need to do the surface area and the volume. Now, the thing about a frustrum is it's basically a similar triangles question. And what I mean by that is, if I consider this triangle here, that is a similar triangle to the big triangle that goes down here. So when I'm trying to work out the relative heights, I'm going to draw this triangle down here. So the smaller triangle, now because it's surface area, I'm going to need all 3 sides. So the smaller triangle has a height of 12, I can see that from here. It has a radius of 5, and because I know Pythagoras, 12 squared plus 5 squared is a 5, 12, 13 triangle, that's going to be 13. Again, let's write that slightly neater. On the bigger triangle, I'm going to draw it marginally bigger just so I can see it. Well, that's got a radius of 20. It's got a height of 12 plus 36, which is 48. And then again, I get Pythagoras, but I don't need to because it's already written here. I know this one is going to be 52. Now, I have to say, I don't actually think I need similar triangles here, but you'll notice all these numbers here multiplied by 4, and of course that will be the case. Again, in this case, I don't need that for this question, but I might have needed it elsewhere. And then, now, it depends which exam you're doing as to what formula sheet you're given. So if we start with the volume is going to be the volume of the big cone minus the volume of the small cone leaves behind the frustum. So the volume of the big cone is going to be, well, it's a third pi times r squared, where r is 20, times by the height, which is 48. And the volume of the small cone is going to be a third times pi times the radius squared, which is 5 squared, times by the height, which is 12. And I could just put the whole thing in my calculator, or I could do it step by step. Actually, let's do it step by step. So this is going to give me, calculator out, 6400 pi. And this one is going to give me 100 pi, be easy to work out that one, which means the difference is going to be 6,300 pi, which I'm now going to say is approximately, big number, 19792.03372. So I'm going to call that approximately 19800 centimeters cubed, because it's a volume. Now, if I was in an exam, I probably would write down 19792.03372, and then write the rounded answer, just in case the answer wanted a bit more detailing. Surface area, slightly trickier. So the surface area of the frustrum, well, let's draw it because it's easier to talk about then. So it's going to be the area of the circle on the top plus the area of the circle on the bottom. So that means the bottom circle. So in other words, it's going to be pi times 5 squared plus pi times 20 squared. So that's easy enough. And then the curved bit is going to be the whole curved cone minus a small curved cone. So the way you work out the volume, so my screen is jumping around. The way you work out the volume of the curved surface area is something called pi RL. The surface area of the large cone is going to be pi times the radius times the slopey line, which is 52. And the surface area of the small cone is going to be pi times the radius times that slopey area, which is 13. And to be clear, I've got these numbers from down here, which is why I drew those little triangles. So again, if I work these things out, well, that's going to give me 1040 pi and 65 pi, which means if I take them away, that's 975 pi. And then I need to add all these things together. So again, I didn't write this down, did I? So that's 25 pi. This one's going to be 400 pi. And then I need to add all these 3 things together. So the circle at the top, the circle at the bottom, and the curved surface. And that's going to give me 975 plus 400 plus 25, which is 1400 pi, which is approximately equal to 4398.229. And again, I'm going to call that 4400 centimeters squared. Wow, those last two questions were quite difficult, weren't they? And actually today, okay, the quadratic inequality was okay. I think all questions today were definitely a skill that you need to be okay with. So obviously quadratic inequalities, it's a marking exam, make sure you can do it. That slightly more tricky trigonometry question, again, lots of ways of doing that, but make sure you got to the same answer. The is Dylan correct is important because you need to show good working. And then the final two questions, I think I went about it a bit of a roundabout way. So actually having said clear working out, hopefully you followed what I did there. And if you didn't, please let me know. But really good mix of questions today. As ever, let me know how it went for you. Do like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.